If you run a business in Australia, you may be required to lodge activity statements with the Australian Taxation Office, or ATO. But what exactly is an activity statement? How do you know if you need to do them? And what actually goes on them? First of all, what exactly is an activity statement? In a nutshell, an activity statement is a form that businesses lodge with the Australian Taxation Office to report on some of the taxes they are due to pay. After the form is lodged, the business will then make a payment to the ATO for those taxes. The forms are usually lodged monthly or quarterly and can be lodged either by the business owner or a qualified agent. So how exactly do you lodge activity statements with the ATO? Traditionally, they were lodged by filling in a paper form and sending it to the ATO. While this option is still available, these days you can also lodge your activity statements online via the ATO's business portal or directly from bookkeeping software such as Xero. Let's take a look now at the different types of activity statements and when you may be required to lodge them. Firstly, it is important to know that there are two types of activity statements: business activity statements, which are often referred to as a BAS, and instalment activity statements, which are known as an IAS. Which activity statements you need to lodge for your business depends on the taxes you need to pay. To begin with, if you're registered for GST, you will need to lodge business activity statements. If you also have staff and need to pay pay-as-you-go withholding tax, you may need to lodge instalment activity statements as well. However, if you are registered for GST but do not have any staff, you may only need to lodge business activity statements. Conversely, if you are not registered for GST but you do have staff, you may only need to lodge instalment activity statements. And of course, if you are not registered for GST and you do not have any staff, you may not need to lodge activity statements at all. This is just a basic look at the rules regarding which activity statements you may need to lodge and when you need to lodge them. There are more rules, and they can get complicated, so be sure to check with a qualified accountant or tax agent for specific advice. Let's take a look now at what actually goes on an activity statement. Activity statements are divided up into labels. Each label relates to a specific tax. For example, labels G1 and 1A both relate to GST. At label G1, you need to put the total sales number of the business for the period in question. Further down the form, at label 1A, you need to put the total GST collected on those sales. These are just two of the labels you may be required to complete on your activity statements. How many labels you need to complete depends on the taxes you pay and also the size of your business. For example, if you run a large business that has an annual turnover of $10 million or more, you need to lodge full BAS returns, which will have at least the following labels just for GST. However, if you run a small business turning over less than $10 million a year, you may be able to lodge a simpler BAS return, which only has a few labels for GST. So as you can see, the ATO has made it easier for small businesses to complete the GST section of their business activity statements. But no matter what the size of your business, if you need to pay other taxes, you may also need to complete labels for them. Here is a list of some of those other taxes. So as you can see, completing activity statements can be quite a chore even if you run a small business. To help ease the burden, we recommend speaking to a qualified tax agent to find out what you need to do and when you need to do it. And we also recommend using bookkeeping software such as Xero to manage your accounts and lodge your activity statements.